Government secrets, lies, and embarrassing facts. They're all on the web for anyone to see. The latest document dumped by WikiLeaks shook up Washington Monday. The documents are diplomatic cables, more than 250,000 of them, and officials say their release could do damage to U.S. foreign policy efforts. The White House has ordered a review of how sensitive information is handled, and the Justice Department is opening a criminal investigation. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton called the disclosure an attack on U.S. interest and the international community.
There have been examples in history in which official conduct has been made public in the name of exposing wrongdoings or misdeeds. This is not one of those cases.
For more now, we are joined by James Hohmann, reporter for Politico. James, thanks for being with us.
Great to be with you, Betty.
All right, so we just heard from Hillary Clinton. She's obviously doing damage control. Will she be able to repair the damage that has already been done?
Well, we'll see exactly what the fallout is. She left right from that press conference yesterday to head for a trip abroad where she's going to be talking to a lot of the foreign leaders who are mentioned in those cables. There was an interesting moment in that press conference where she said that one of the foreign leaders, she didn't say which one that she was talking to, said, you should see what we write about you in our cables, and that got some laughter from the assembled press corps. I think that a lot of foreign leaders, this puts them in a difficult position, but they understand that this is what diplomats do. They write messages, often unvarnished, and send them back to Washington in these old-fashioned cables, as they're called, reflecting on the leaders that we're dealing with. And in a world where there's so much diplomacy and so much careful couching of language, we see what diplomats really think. In some specific countries, this really does put the U.S. in a very tough spot, and it puts foreign leaders who have been very candid to U.S. diplomats in an even tougher spot, where they need to talk to their own people and their own political parties about why they said what they said to the American diplomats.
You're so right. It does put the U.S. in a difficult spot. President Obama has worked very hard to strengthen relations with foreign countries. So how will these leaked documents affect those relationships?
Well, in some ways, Obama's efforts over the last 2 years have made this much better than it could have been. If this had been under George Bush's watch, we probably would have seen more of an outcry from certain countries in the world. But Obama has worked really hard to build some of these relationships. There are going to be places where countries point to it as a reason for worsening ties. But by and large, we haven't seen the kind of explosive damage over the last 24 hours that you might have expected.
Still, though, James, a lot of people are saying, what can be done to stop this? The Justice Department is opening an investigation, but is there anything else that can be done to stop future leaks or bring WikiLeaks officials to justice?
Potentially, criminal charges could eventually be lodged against the person behind the site. But what's so tricky and different about WikiLeaks is it's not like a traditional media organization. In the old days, the White House could talk to the New York Times or the Washington Post or Politico and get them to hold back information where national security was on the line. But these people with WikiLeaks explicitly have an anti-American agenda, that they want to limit U.S. power abroad, and they can't be negotiated with. So the challenge with this the third tranche of documents, 250,000 of them, is that these aren't people who you can negotiate with and stop them from putting these documents online. So in the short term, thinking about the damage, there's not a lot that can be done.
A lot of damage control is underway as we speak. I want to shift gears briefly because I do want to talk a little bit about what is happening in Washington this week. Yesterday, President Obama asked Congress to freeze the pay of more than 2 million government workers. He says it will save $2 billion this year and $28 billion over the next 5 years. Now, the president meets with Republican leaders today. How will they receive that announcement on the freeze?
Well, what's interesting is that the Republicans called for this idea several months ago as part of their U-Cut program, which Eric Cantor was really behind in the House. And at the time, Obama was calling for a 1.4% increase in salaries, a cost of living adjustment for these federal workers. So Republicans have welcomed the step, but they say it's only a small step. As you said, it's just $2 billion, which when you have a more than $1 trillion budget deficit isn't exactly a big splash in the pond, but it still is a step that allows Obama to say tomorrow as he gets recommendations from the Deficit Commission, and today as he meets with Republican leaders, that he's serious about being fiscally responsible. But at the same time, Republicans can say that they've been calling for something much, much bigger, and that this won't be the sort of game-changing proposal that fixes the country's huge budget deficits.
Well, in addition to the pay freeze, what else do you expect to come out of that meeting?
Republicans and Obama will both posture, and they both want to look like they're willing to work with the other side, that they're willing to listen to the other. But there's not necessarily a lot of signals that there's really a desire to compromise. Republicans are under a lot of pressure from their right flank. The Tea Party didn't send Republicans, in a lot of cases, to Congress to work closely with Obama and to support his agenda. And Obama doesn't want to go as far as a lot of the Republicans do. So it's unclear that there will be any tangible progress out of this meeting, but both sides want to look as good as possible. So expect to see a lot of posturing.
All right, James Hohmann from Politico, as always, we do really appreciate your insight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Betty.